To start with what just happened over the past 62 minutes on The View. And it's not even one of my wacky View clips for you where we just make fun of Sunny or Joy. I mean, we love those. But this is like legit Joe Biden, who's on, well, you guys will tell me what he's doing here. And I'll tell you what Mark Halperin says. He's on some sort of a rehabilitation tour. Okay. Anyway, he goes on to The View, and it wasn't rehabilitative at all.
It all started on what seemed like a regular Tuesday morning. Birds were chirping, coffee was brewing, and somewhere in a TV studio, Whoopi Goldberg was once again saying things that made people question reality. Then in walked President Joe Biden, America's commander-in-chief, and, let's be honest, sometimes walking confusion. He appeared on The View, and what was supposed to be a warm, thoughtful moment turned into something that looked more like a live comedy show, only no one told the hosts it was supposed to be funny. The hosts of The View clapped like they were being paid by the applause. Which, let's face it, they probably were. Biden shuffled onto the set like a grandpa who had taken a wrong turn and ended up in a school play. The energy was awkward from the start. The smiles looked forced. The cheers sounded staged, and somewhere off-screen, you could almost hear their contracts whispering, smile, or get fired. The idea was to show Biden as sharp, in charge, and presidential. What we got instead was a confusing performance full of mumbling, awkward pauses, and moments where you had to wonder if even he knew what he was talking about. It was like watching—
I've noticed that Trump can't stop talking about you. He's obsessed with you. As of late April, he had mentioned you and your family and your administration at least 580 times. We're talking shrink land now, because, you know, when you're obsessed with somebody, you have to look in yourself and say, what is going on here? And at his Trump's cabinet meeting last week, your name was invoked 52 times, and he blamed you for the economic mess that his tariffs are causing. Why is he so fixated on you and blaming you for everything?
I beat him.
Someone read a bedtime story in a language they didn't fully understand. And the hosts? They smiled, nodded, and laughed like everything made sense. It didn't. Then came Megyn Kelly. And she was not having any of it. Now, if you know Megyn Kelly, you know she doesn't hold back. She watched the episode like someone watching a cooking show where the chef forgets to turn on the oven, burns everything, and then still calls it gourmet. She didn't just give her opinion, she lit the whole thing on fire and didn't stop until there was nothing left but ashes and bad memories. Megyn's commentary was sharp, smart, and brutally honest. She didn't need cue cards or a glam squad. She came with common sense, critical thinking, and a deep sense of, are we seriously pretending this is okay? Her takedown wasn't loud or angry. It was calm, collected, and cutting like a well-dressed lawyer reading you your rights right before taking you down in court. She started with Biden himself. Megyn called out how the entire segment was treated like a win when it was clearly a mess. Biden stumbled over his words.
A little bit more, speaking of those around him who covered up his infirmity, or at least that's where my mind went. Dr. Jill was there too, and as usual, came to the rescue. Watch SOT 38.
What is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that, number one. Number two, you know, think
This
of
is about the books.
What we're left with. We're left with a circumstance where we had an insurrection when I started.
The people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us, and they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. Joe worked really hard. I think he was a great president.
She says none of these people writing the books worked for us. Well, one of the first to have his book hit interviewed Ron Klain, who was Joe Biden's chief of staff for almost all of his presidency. And he went on the record saying that Biden thought he was president of NATO. Where was that follow-up, ladies of The View? I must have missed it.
Lost his train of thought more than once, and looked confused more often than confident. But instead of addressing that, the hosts acted like he had just delivered a speech worthy of Mount Rushmore. Megyn said watching The View try to make Biden look good was like watching raccoons host the Olympics. It didn't make sense, and the bar was already so low it was practically underground. Yet somehow, they still managed to trip over it. She also pointed out that the questions the hosts asked weren't real questions. They were soft, safe, and clearly pre-approved. Instead of challenging Biden or digging into real issues, they threw him easy ones and applauded like proud parents when he finished a sentence. It wasn't journalism, it was babysitting. According to Megyn, the whole segment felt like a group.
He could barely spit it out.
And he threw that one out there too.
My goodness.
He and Obama are two peas in a pod on this. Sexism and racism, if you didn't vote for her. That's obviously what she thinks too. But the nerve of this guy of all people to come out and say that's why she lost.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal, Megyn. You know they're putting him out there to provide proof of life because a lot of people are wondering. They hadn't seen him in a while. But at some point in every person's life, you go from rehab to palliative care. And he is definitely in the palliative care category right now.
Therapy session for people who didn't want to face reality. Everyone pretended things were fine, even though it was clear they weren't. It was all fake smiles, forced laughter, and a big helping of denial. And Megyn didn't just go after Biden or the interview. She went after The View itself. She called out the show for what it's become, a place where logic goes to die and feelings matter more than facts. Every episode feels less like a talk show and more like a strange performance, where the goal is to shout over each other and agree on whatever makes them feel good in the moment. She took aim at Whoopi Goldberg first, saying she looked more like a spiritual guide leading people into confusion than a serious host. Whoopi nodded along to Biden's rambling answers like she was hearing the secrets of the universe through a broken headphone. It was bizarre, and Megyn wasn't afraid to say it. Then came Sunny Hostin.
Oh, they asked him about that. They asked him about that moment. Watch this, SOT 36.
When the vice president was here, I asked her if she would have done something differently than your administration over the past 4 years. And because of all the successes that your administration had, I think her response was, there is not a thing that comes to mind. Now, that answer was weaponized against her. And there has been some reporting that you encouraged her.
Megyn joked that watching Sunny try to explain away Biden's mistakes was like watching someone do mental gymnastics with a dislocated spine. Sunny's facial expressions went from fake concern to please make this end every few minutes. Megyn said her attempts at defending Biden sounded like they came from a fortune cookie that had been stepped on by a Prius. Ouch. Next up was Alyssa Farah Griffin. Megyn called her the human version of a LinkedIn profile. She nodded seriously at everything, trying to look like the reasonable one in the room. But Megyn wasn't buying it. She said Alyssa came off more like the intern trying not to mess up during a meeting she wasn't invited to. And the outfits? Megyn didn't skip those either. She joked that the hosts looked like they got dressed in the dark after raiding the back room of a cruise ship gift shop. Every outfit screamed, "Look at me," but also whispered, "I regret this." Megyn said their fashion choices looked like...
Did that clear it up for you?
I mean,
you have clarity on it now?
That gerbil is having a hard time spinning the wheel. That is about as torturous as I've ever seen.
It was torturous, and on Sunny's part too. There, like yes. She is trying to hand this off to Biden, and hopefully he can take it from there, right? Like okay, she wants to straight face tell us that what the question was, like what sort of wins would you have changed? Like that's an actual question you would ask a person. It doesn't make any logical sense.
Like they were inspired by Pinterest boards made by people who think sequins are a personality. Even the set wasn't safe. She called their roundtable setup a failed attempt at diplomacy, saying it looked more like a family dinner where everyone was about to fight over who forgot to bring the turkey. It was all staged and awkward, and Megyn could see right through it. But her biggest point was this: The View isn't doing journalism. It's not even trying. It's a group of people sitting around trying to turn feelings into facts. They cheer for things they agree with and ignore anything that challenges them. It's less about discussion and more about pretending. Megyn said the whole show feels like a bubble, where nobody is allowed to disagree and every opinion must come with applause. If you question anything or suggest a different point of view, you're kicked out faster than a fire drill. It's like watching a cult documentary in real time, only with more bronzer and less commitment. She compared it to toddlers trying to defuse a bomb with glitter and finger paint messy.
Yeah. What the hell was he talking about, by the way? He was like, I've never seen such an effective, like, misogynistic campaign. What the hell? Like, that's actually a first take. I mean, I know that Democrats say, well, it's because the country is misogynistic and racist and all those things. But, like, he's pointing the finger basically at the Trump campaign, saying that they had, like, this. Well, I mean, if you go back to, like, the ad slate of the messaging matrix that the Trump administration put together in the course of that campaign, it was immigration, it was crime, it was the horrible economy. I mean, none of these things are gender specific. Right.
Because dangerous and impossible to take seriously. Every time Biden stumbled over a sentence, they acted like it was powerful. Every awkward pause became presidential. Megyn wasn't fooled, and she didn't think anyone else should be either. She didn't hold back. She didn't soften the blow. She told the truth as she saw it, with wit, sarcasm, and just enough sharpness to make it unforgettable. And that's why people listened. She wasn't just mocking The View. She was pointing out a bigger issue: how media sometimes treats political figures like celebrities instead of holding them accountable. When someone like Biden fumbles, the job isn't to pretend it didn't happen. The job is to ask why, to dig deeper, to be honest. Megyn didn't roast them out of hate. She did it.
It was so insane the way that she's like beyond effusive of being like, so here's the thing. Because of your record of tremendous successes, dear leader. Like, what? Are you asking him a question?
Like, Joe Biden, tell us your greatest weakness.
And you know what? You know what's so amazing?
You know?
What's so amazing about it, you guys, is that, so here she's like, I am not going to make the same mistake twice. You know, I already fucked up Kamala Harris's run for the office. And I am not going to do anything to undermine this guy. So I'm just going to give him the answer in the question. Like, you know, and so she declined to distinguish any of her policies from all the ones that you did so successfully. What's your reaction to that? Right? So she's trying to give him the softball like that. And then he has no idea what she has said. Like,
because she believes people deserve better. Better questions, better coverage, better conversations, and maybe even better outfits. In the end, her takedown wasn't just about one interview. It was about how far some media has strayed from real journalism. How they sometimes care more about keeping their guests happy than telling the truth. How they treat the public like they can't handle honesty. She walked into the moment like a surgeon, slicing through the nonsense with a calm, focused hand. She didn't yell. She didn't scream. She just told the truth clearly, cleverly, and completely. And while The View may have hoped their Biden episode would make headlines for all the right reasons, Megyn made sure it did for all the wrong.
Interviewing for a job as a cameraman, but
we are beyond happy to have you here today for a lot of different reasons. But my question is, how are you?
How you doing?
I'm well. The family's well, thank God. Things are moving along, and we're getting squared away, trying to figure out what the most significant and consequential role I can play consistent with what I've done in the past. I'm writing another book.
Because when the emperor has no clothes, someone has to say it. And Megyn Kelly said it, loud and clear. So next time Joe Biden shuffles onto a talk show, forgetting where he is or who he's talking to, and the hosts smile and nod like he just delivered a masterpiece, just remember this. Somewhere out there, Megyn Kelly is watching, shaking her head, and sharpening her words for the next round. Because she's not here for the fluff. She's here for the truth. And if The View can't handle that, well, that's not her problem.